before we dive into the topics, just wanted to say that very excited to have Jonathan and Laurie here. HubSpot has been amazing with their customer-centric strategy. I think, I believe that Brian, the CEO, kind of announced a very big focus on customers in the last HubSpot event, Inbound, in 2019. They brought in a chief customer officer, Yamini, which is kind of aligning, and Jonathan and Laurie would talk about that. They have the customer codes. I think it's amazing to see how they don't just talk the talk, they also walk the walk. And that's why I'm so excited to have Laurie and John here. And Laurie and Jonathan. Before we go ahead, so just 2 words about CrowdVocate. CrowdVocate is a B2B customer advocacy platform. We have basically are in the industry of customer marketing. We support the industry. That's why we have these events every month, and we're going to shout out tomorrow with the recording another webinar that we have on July 4th. And we have a Slack group. So those of you who are in customer marketing, customer advocacy, welcome to HubSpot runs a Slack group that basically is open for industry professionals. So we're happy to join you. You can shout out to Laurie, to myself. I'm happy to join you to that group. It's amazing. And basically, we're happy to support the industry and talk with any practitioner, and especially professionals like Jonathan and Laurie, about how they look at the customer lifecycle post-sale, how they do customer marketing, customer advocacy, customer success, and keep that flywheel running. And with that, I think we'll give actually the mic to them. So you're on, Jonathan and Laurie.
Thanks, Gal. Happy to be here. Looking forward to talking to you all today. We put together a few slides, so I'm gonna get ready to share my screen here while Jonathan says hello. And then, plenty of time for Q&A, and happy to have it be a discussion. So yeah, just a few slides on the topics that we were asked about. Jonathan, if you want to say, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. I'm Jonathan Corbin. I'm the VP of Customer Success and Global Strategy at HubSpot. Really excited to be here with Gal and Laurie. And this is something that Laurie and I get a chance to talk about on a regular basis. And so we're excited to share that with each of you and with Gal. I think it'll be a great conversation. Looking forward to comments and questions as we go through this. So Laurie, I think you're sharing now. I can see the screen.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So quick intros. Gal, anything you want to add? You sort of gave your intro, but anything else?
Good.
You're good. Okay. All right. So I'm Laurie Aquilante Faiola. I am the Director of Customer Marketing at HubSpot. Been at HubSpot almost 6 years now, and kind of done a variety of different roles. When we used to have the funnel, which we'll talk about later, very focused on the middle and bottom of the funnel, and now looking after customers.
Yeah, thanks, Laurie. I'm Jonathan Corbin, as I mentioned earlier, VP of Customer Success and Global Strategy. My team is responsible for working with our customers, helping them to maximize their usage of HubSpot tools. And so, in customer success, one of the things that's really important to us is putting our customers at the center of everything that we do, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I've been here for about 9 months and have spent a number of years at different companies in the MarTech space, as well as some time on the ad agency side.
Great. And we're running the poll in parallel, but I think we'll take it off in a minute. Again, if all of those who fill the poll can win some cool prizes, 20 winners we'll have. So let's go and let's start. What are our topics today, Laurie and Jonathan?
Okay. Let's see. So we are talking about the collaboration between our two organizations. And a little bit about how that works. We'll talk about how we think about customer segmentation and how it impacts the way that we communicate to customers and the way that we service customers. We'll talk a little bit about adapting to this new normal. The world is obviously, really crazy place right now. And everyone is going through a lot. So we'll talk a little bit about how we're helping our customers and our fans adapt and be successful despite an immense amount of challenge right now. And then we'll talk a little bit about the push and pull of retention marketing versus cross-sell, upsell, and kind of what you see related to that in a traditional funnel organization and how we think about it as a flywheel organization, being customer first. Sound good, everyone?
Yeah, it's
Sounds
good.
great.
And again, just a reminder, the Q&A is open for everybody to ask on each of those topics as we go. And again, we'll make stops to answer your questions, so feel free to ask. Let's start.
Okay. All right, so I'll go first. This is the customer marketing team. This is how we think about customer marketing at HubSpot. We're on a mission to help customers do a couple things: activate in the first place, and grow, be successful with the products that they have, help them discover and buy additional products, and then take our best customers and really engage them in helping to spin the flywheel and go from a delighted customer to an advocate of HubSpot. Some of the metrics that we look at to know whether or not that's going well, we look at our customers activating. We have an install base SLA, so an agreement with our sales team in terms of how much expected revenue will generate out of the install base, and how much marketing will help with that. Then we look at what % of our install base is consuming content, what types of content. We look at our review data and our rankings on third-party review sites. And then we look at what's happening inside our online community.
Great. And on the customer success side, as I mentioned, we think about our organization as being customer centric. And so what that means to us is that we help customers turn opportunities into outcomes. And we talk a lot about experience disruption, but we really want to help our customers become the experience disruptors and deliver exceptional experiences using HubSpot platform to their customers. And so, us being able to continue to push the envelope in terms of how we're engaging with our customers, how we're helping them to progress in terms of their use of the tools, getting in front of and alongside of their customers is really important to us. And so the metrics that we use to be able to track that is, first of all, are our customers utilizing the platform? Are they using the software that they've purchased? And are they achieving the objectives that they set out when they purchased it? And then the other metric that we use is adoption. If they purchased a certain number of seats, how many of them are they using? And how can we help them to overcome some of the challenges that they're facing in terms of doing a better job of utilizing them, whether it's education, helping new users get up to speed, understanding maybe some of the nuances of the different hubs that they purchased. And then engagement is the last one. How frequently are we interacting and engaging with our customers? And Laurie's team helps us a tremendous amount here, and we'll get into that a little bit later, how we go about engaging with our entire customer base, knowing that we have a lot of customers, and it makes it really challenging doing it with just humans. And so that's where customer marketing plays a really strong role.
Right. And so as we think about how those two things come together, so this is the flywheel if you haven't seen it, and HubSpot, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we talk very much about the funnel being an inefficient, outdated way to think about your organization, and the flywheel being a much more effective way to think about it, where customers are at the center, and the momentum you generate and the friction you remove can really help it spin faster and to move people around. So the way that Jonathan's organization and mine come together is kind of at a couple key points. One is, of course, we want customers to be onboarded, right? So whatever they have purchased, we want them to activate, we want to reduce time to value, we want them to be successful. Then as they move on in their journey, we want them to grow and to have positive outcomes with the software that they've purchased from us. And sometimes part of that is helping them discover and buy additional products. And then as they move even further along their journey, we hope that some portion of them become advocates, and we work to identify individuals that are a good fit for that, enable that advocacy, and then reward that community, which creates a bunch of pathways into new business. And that's where we spin that flywheel. And
Laurie, I think what's so powerful about this image and the concept of a flywheel is that when you look at traditional organizations, instead of seeing, kind of a circle that moves around and with your customer being a focal point, what you typically have are siloed organizations. And what it means is that it's a very challenging interaction for the customer as they move between teams. And so, what's really interesting about the flywheel, and if you haven't seen this before, we have lots of them on the Hubspot website, but it allows you to think more holistically about the customer, the journey that they're experiencing, where they're starting off at, where they're ending up at, and how you continue to apply force, and it generates momentum in the flywheel.
Yeah, exactly.
And the flywheel, I have a question about that, because I know that the flywheel is relatively a new model, right? HubSpot launched it, announced it, I guess, a year ago, more or less. What kind of, maybe take us back, and it relates, I think the flywheel actually relates also to that connection between customer success and marketing. What generated that? What was the birth of the flywheel?
Man, Laurie, you're gonna have to take this one. I think that one predates me. Gal, you're asking all the tough questions.
Yeah. So as we started to look at, you're right, it's relatively new. And it really came down for us as we started to look across our multiple product lines, and we started to talk about, all right, what does expansion revenue look like? How do we make our customers most successful? Brian Halligan, actually our CEO, said, I started to realize that in this traditional funnel model, all the momentum comes out the bottom, right? So your customers are you think of them as the end point. And then what else happens? Nothing else happens, right? If you think about your customers or that initial purchase as the end of your marketing and sales funnel, you're just leaving a whole bunch of opportunity on the table. So he started to think about, well, what could be an alternative to that? And flywheels are really interesting for all the reasons that, Jonathan just pointed out, that you really can drive so much more momentum in your business if you think about it in a circular way. And there's other folks that talk about this too, right? If you've ever gone through like Reforge or looked at the stuff that Brian Belfour talks about, he talks about growth loops, and just this concept of things coming back around is really powerful. And I know we probably have a lot of customer marketers on the call, so I'm sure that this resonates with them, since customers are sort of the heart of what they do.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like when you start to think about it, Laurie, it just completely makes sense of, like instead of losing your momentum coming out of the bottom of the funnel, of actually perpetuating that momentum and carrying it over. And you think about, we have a lot of businesses that have transitioned to a SaaS business model where CAC and LTV are really important to you. And so you think about it, right? And it's a subscription revenue business. If you're not keeping your customers happy, it doesn't matter, how many customers you acquire, they're going to churn. And so thinking more holistically about the journey of the customer and helping them to get value out of it, it benefits not just the company that's selling it, but the customers who are buying it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
That help, Val? Do we have another question in there? Or?
We have questions, but we have some questions around advocacy, but I think that's a bit ahead. So maybe let's move on and then start answering some questions.
Sounds good. All right. So if the moving people around the flywheel is what we work together to accomplish, how exactly do we do that, right? And one of the things we wanted to cover today is a little bit of like who does what. So the way that we think about segmentation and how it relates to communication is this. There is a base level communication that all customers get from customer marketing from my team, right? So we send a monthly newsletter, and of course we use smart content and it's segmented to be personalized, but to an extent, but everyone gets the customer newsletter. When we launch a new product, when a major product changes, when we roll out a new academy course, right? There's things that sort of are just table stakes that every customer needs to know about. And marketing really leans into communicating those things. And then as you kind of think about the customer base, then we start to think about segmentation. And I'll let Jonathan talk about this, but we start to think about what do customers want, and then where does marketing fit into that model? So Jonathan, do you want to talk about kind of our approach there?
Yeah, it's you know, we're faced with a really interesting challenge, is that, you know, we have almost 80,000 customers. And so, you know, I think when we first started off, we said, hey, we want to treat everyone the same. We want to give everyone access to the same people. And we started having conversations with our customers. And our customers came back to us and they said, you know, we appreciate the fact that you want to engage with us and you want to have these conversations, but the reality is that there are segments of customers that want to be served differently. So there's a segment of customers who really want the ability to be able to help themselves. They want access to information. They want to be able to find what they're looking for. They want articles written about the most frequent way of doing things. And so they want to be able to engage with HubSpot when and where they need it. They want to be able to look for the information. They want to be able to find it. Then there's another segment of customers who said, hey, I want to be able to help myself. I want access to all of this information, but I'd also like the chance to, or the opportunity to talk to somebody every now and then. And that's our second segment. And then we have a third segment. And, you know, they said, we actually, you know, want to be able to pull in a resource whenever we need it. We want to be able to have conversations, and we want to have ongoing conversations. We want someone who's going to check in with us, make sure we're doing things the right way, make sure that we're thinking about things the right way and we're moving in the right direction. And so that's kind of our third segment. And so those are the three segments that we focus on. And the customer feedback has been hugely instrumental in helping us to create those. So, you know, if you're thinking about segmentation strategies, go out, have the conversations with your customers, ask them the right questions, and that will help you to find those. And I think as businesses, you know, there's a tendency to focus on just what's best for us as a business. But this is really us thinking about what do our customers need and how do we put them in the center of how we're constructing an organization that's going to interact with them.
That's amazing. We have a question from Isabella, and I'm going to hop on that question as well. So Isabella is asking, you know, how do you determine if a customer wants more contact or less? I think you iterated to it a bit, you know, by asking them. But I mean, before you answer Isabella's question, I'll add my question on top, Jonathan. I mean, HubSpot is very different in segmentation than anything I've heard in that sense, because companies segment companies by their size, by their, you know, how much they pay a month, geo, whatever, you know, their growth potential. You're basically saying that at the baseline of your segmentation, you're understanding how customers want to interact with HubSpot. And here I add Isabella's questions on how do you determine that? And then you build your segmentation into 3 tiers based on the capacity of interaction. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. So it's really reflective of the customer feedback. And I think, you know, one of the things that for me is so powerful about HubSpot's approach is like that customer-centric viewpoint. You know, and I keep coming back to that because I think like that really is the essence of what we're focused on at HubSpot. Like, how do we create a better experience for the customer? And, you know, I talked earlier about what our goal was as an organization. It's to help our customers become experience disruptors. And so how do we do that? By helping to set that example ourselves.
Right. Okay, cool.
And I'll just, you know, add to that a little bit. When you think about it from a marketing perspective, I think what you say is, all right, for the customers who want to be more self-service, we need to support them from an automation standpoint. We need to support them with bots and chat. We need to make sure they can find the answers to the questions they have really quickly, that so forth and so on. And then when you think about a customer that has asked to be in kind of a higher touch, more human-led model, the way that you think about it from a marketing perspective is, well, what do those services humans need to be successful, right? So did they need email templates? Did they need trainings? Did they need cheat sheets? Like, you know, how do you work through those humans? And honestly, we think about it the same way, even on the sales side of the business, right? Where for more enterprise sales, you don't see marketing taking the lead. You see marketing supporting through content and templates and that sort of help. And then, you know, in like an e-commerce world where you can just buy everything online, you see marketing do more automation and more leaning it, taking the lead there. If that helps.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll add another question that came from Candle. I think it's kind of within this topic. So she was asking how customer marketing enables customer success on product launches, email sends, playbooks, etc. How do you ensure the message gets to everyone so the customer has, you know, consistent experience, whether, you know, they get a marketing email or they talk to a CSM?
Sure. Yeah. So I think there's a couple things. One, our product marketing team, I have to say, does an excellent job of establishing all the positioning for a new launch. And then they work with, and Jonathan could talk to this more, our customer success enablement team to make sure that our customer success team is up to speed on the launch, knows how to talk about it, this, that, and the other thing. And then from a marketing perspective, what we think about is, all right, there's an initial launch announcement, right? There's an initial email that says, hey, customer, this is what's changed. Probably if you're a SaaS company, some of that messaging goes in the product as well. Certainly it goes on your website, right? So marketing kind of does this initial, hey, everyone, this is what's happening. And then from that point on, you have your customer success team really leaning in to help customers figure out how that launch or update applies to them and to their strategy, right? And we do, we're getting tactical here, but we do things like letting your customer success team know which customers have interacted with a certain campaign. Did they watch the webinar? Did they read the content? Did they look at the blog? And then even partnering on saying, here, marketing will host a webinar, and customer success, you can invite people to it. So there's tactical things, I think, like that you can do too to make sure that you're not stepping on each other.
Yeah, I think this is where having a single system, a single source of truth, you take, for example, Sales Hub, Service Hub, Marketing Hub, where you can actually see everything that's going on with the customer. This is where it becomes really powerful because, first of all, you can make sure that everyone has access to the information that they need to know. To what Laurie was saying, what are our customers seeing? Is it a blog post? Is it an email? But for us, there is that baseline of marketing support coming from the customer marketing team. So every customer is going to get that. Then, as Laurie mentioned, our learning and development team will actually take the materials that we're producing for new product launches, for example, and it'll train the teams. Hey, here's what's coming. Here's what that means to our customers. Here's how they can best utilize them. So just making sure that everyone's moving in concert together to be able to deliver that fantastic experience.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So here's actually a great example. We can talk more about how we work together, but Gal, you had asked about how are we helping customers adapt to the new normal, right? And the new world that we're in. So when this all started with COVID, we realized pretty quickly, I think both marketing and customer success, that our customers were really struggling to figure out how to completely pivot their businesses, right? There were in-person events were canceled. They were asking, how do I spend my event budget? Where do I put it? You know, I didn't really invest in online marketing and go, you know, having my business go online. Now I need to do it, and I need to do it yesterday. How do I do that?
Right.
You know, I have an outside sales organization. Help. So we realized, wow, customers are really struggling. And we said, we're all struggling. We said, so what can we do as HubSpot? Well, we know how to do these things, right? Like we have a huge events team that's grappling with the same issues. We know how to go from outside sales to inside sales. And so we put together this Adapt 2020 campaign, which I would encourage you all to check it out if you haven't seen it. And it's a weekly content series. So you sign up, and every week you're getting new content. You're getting a live event with experts on that topic, right? Whether it's pivoting your website or changing your event strategy or what have you. And then we took data in aggregate from all of our customers and users, and we're able to show benchmark data. So you can look and say, oh, wow, HubSpot says that this week, you know, email open rates for sequences are down. Okay, what does that mean for, you know, am my email open rates up? Are they down? Wow, people are consuming more content than ever. Okay, what does that mean for my business? Well, maybe it means I need to invest in a content strategy if I haven't already. So you really get education, but you're also getting kind of cold, hard data that you can compare to your own business. And hopefully that helps our customers make good decisions in what is a very chaotic world.
Yeah, and a lot of that information is information that, you know, as we're pushing out to our customers, as we're, you know, putting it on webinars, as we're delivering it through, you know, customer emails, is that we're, you know, also informing our CSMs on, hey, you know, here are the transitions, and here's how we can help our customers. So we're actually setting up consulting conversations with our team, training them on kind of the new methodology around the Adapt 2020 and how our customers can best use it. You know, what's the best fit for certain types of customers, and, you know, what is the data that's going to be very compelling that they should be focused on as they're going about making those transitions that Laurie talked about. So we just like we were talking about earlier, you know, with the product marketing emails that are going out, making sure that, you know, we're acting in concert together. So if we're going out there and we're pushing content out to our customers, we're making sure that we're letting our team know about that ahead of time, that we're training them on how to use it, how to have the right conversations with your customers, when it applies, what are the types of customers that are going to benefit from this the most.
Right. And would you engage customers? So, I mean, I know that we haven't yet reached the structure in HubSpot, but I know part of, you know, the teams is the voice of customer team, and there's of course advocacy. So do you not only, because you were talking about providing value to your customers, which again is amazing. And I think, you know, the Adapt 2020 is an amazing campaign, which many companies should, you know, look up to, but that's giving value to us, the customers. We ourselves use HubSpot as a customer, but do you also engage customers in asking stuff? I know that many people are debating between themselves, can we run a survey for customers like voice of customer, or ask them what they need? Can we ask for a customer story or advocacy at this time, or no, we shouldn't touch them right now? Like, what was your approach on those things?
That's a great question. I can take that. So when everything first happened, we paused all marketing that was asking our customers for something, right? We said, listen, for right now, no more, you know, no review campaigns, no advocacy campaigns, turn off the demand emails. Like, this is just not the time to be saying like, hey, your business is probably falling apart and people in your life could be sick, but could you leave us a review? Like, no, that's not, you know, that's not going to work. So we shut it off for, I don't know, I'm sorry, off the top of my head, the exact amount of weeks we shut it off for, but for some amount of time while, you know, the crisis was most urgent and most upsetting. We did something similar, in the US recently with all of the social unrest and racial injustice, that we're seeing. Same sort of thing. We said, okay, this week is not the week to be asking people for a customer story, right? Or we had some user group meetings that decided to cancel, and we supported them in that decision. We said, yeah, I mean, you're in Chicago, it's you don't want to host your user group this quarter. We get it. That's, we're not gonna hold you accountable for that, of course. And then we slowly, once we got over the hump of the crisis and it seemed that people were getting back to business a little bit, we slowly started to turn those things back on with updated messaging, right? So we updated the messaging to say, instead of saying like, oh, wow, you're a top user of Marketing Hub and we'd love for you to leave us a review and help other software buyers. We maybe said something like, this is a tumultuous time. We hope that you're safe and well. We notice that you're doing really well with XYZ products. We would love a review. And for every review, G2 Crowd did something where for every review, you could choose to donate the reward that you would normally get yourself, right? So there was things like that. So we started to turn some of those things back on with updated messaging and just did a very slow ramp and kept an eye on all of our customer feedback channels, open rates, click rates, stayed really tightly connected with our CS team and our support team to understand how it was landing.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, Jonathan, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think we adapted a lot of our messaging and the conversations that we were having with our customers in very much the same way. Really, again, acting in concert together with our customer marketing team of being supportive, helping customers with the transition versus pushing them to use more of a product or to do more with a specific tool, but really leaning into some of the messaging from the Adapt 2020 campaign that we launched, and some of the best practices that we've observed in our customers that were doing a really great job of making that transition.
Okay. We have a question from Miriam. Maybe it's a bit premature, Laurie, because it is about advocacy, but maybe it's a good time. So she's asking, what are your criteria to identify advocates? And can you mention examples of rewards you have put in place to maintain their engagement?
Sure.
We talked about rewards maybe now with COVID, but also beforehand.
Yeah, sure. So our team prior to COVID actually tested a whole bunch of different cohorts to see who was most likely to leave us a review, which was a great proxy for other types of advocacy. Turns out it's somewhat correlated to participating in a customer reference, a case study, so forth and so on. So we looked at highest usage, most active. We looked at highest NPS. We looked at what we call delight moments in the product. So for example, someone that sent their first marketing email or closed their first deal. So we looked and said, what are the inspirational, delightful moments in the product? And what if we target people who have done those things? And then we looked time-based. So congratulations, you're out of onboarding. Congratulations, you're hit your first year, your second year, what have you. And turns out, by and far, the best conversion rates are for people who are most active in the product. Better than NPS, better than doing cool things in the product, better than anniversary emails. It really turns out that usage, and it's no surprise, right, once you kind of say it out loud, but it turns out that, active usage is most indicative of being willing to participate in an advocacy ask. And the way that we think about that is we reward people. So we say, you're one of the top 1,000 users of Marketing Hub this quarter. Congratulations, here's a certificate. And then, yeah, would you leave us a review? And if you do, you do get a gift card, or like I said, now with COVID, you can donate it. And we actually had a customer who, I will never forget this email. So when we first ran this campaign, we didn't used to send a certificate. We just said, congratulations, you're a top user. And would you like to leave us a review? And we had a customer write us back and say, you know what, instead of the gift card, could I actually just get a certificate to hang in my cubicle?
Yeah, I love that story. I remember it.
Right? And we said, sure, like, yes. But you know, I think it goes to show that for our customers, right? HubSpot is that if you are the person doing most of the marketing tasks in HubSpot, right? If you're a core user, so much of your day-to-day work is about using HubSpot, and it is a badge of honor to say that you're a top user of the product, right? And that's something that we see that with Academy certifications too. These are things that people are proud of, that they can put in their review, that they can use in a promotion conversation with their boss, right? And I think that kind of goes to like, are you thinking about your customers as a human being, for, you know, in a, not just a, like a amorphous company. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, we have one question relating to that from Erwin. Hi, Erwin. So he was asking, how do you actually measure top users, those power users? Is it just by logins, or do you actually measure their time in the product, their activity, whatnot?
Yeah, hi, Erwin. We have our data science team looks at, like, first of all, meaningful behaviors, right? Because if you just looked how often, say, people log in, that might not give you like the true power users of the product. So they look across all the different things someone could do and then say which ones are meaningful, and then which quantities of which action are meaningful, right? Doing a lot of one thing may not be as valuable as doing a lot of something else, right? I don't know, if you're a Sales Hub user, closing a lot of deals is probably a good thing. Viewing a lot of contacts maybe is, you know, not as good as closing a lot of deals. So yeah, we take sort of a scientific approach to it.
Amazing. What are we going to touch cross-sell and upsell? Because Nita is asking about that. So she's asking, when do you think about cross-sell and upselling initiatives during the customer lifecycle? Maybe that's for you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Laurie.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because one of the things you mentioned, Gal, was you know, us bringing in a new chief customer officer, and I think what was really interesting about that is, you know, a chief customer officer is a relatively nascent role, and for HubSpot, you know, we keep talking about putting the customer at the center of everything we do, but in traditional companies, you know, you had kind of three siloed organizations. So you would have marketing, and you might have a CMO for that, and you would have, you know, your services organization with your success and your services team, your support team, and you would have a sales organization. And a lot of times they were actually moving with a lot of friction against each other because they had disparate goals. And so what we said is, actually, you know, if we're really going to live out, you know, our premise around the flywheel and remove friction from the process, we have to align everyone who's going to be engaging with our customers under a single person who's going to have their purview is to make sure that we're creating a great experience for our customers. And so, you know, like we were talking about, in that traditional sense, you kind of have that push and pull model where, you know, your services team might be saying, hey, you know, on the sales side, what did you guys sell them? We can't deliver that. But actually putting all the front office teams under a single leader and unifying them around the goals that they have is really powerful in terms of helping to remove the friction from the flywheel and increase momentum. Anything to add to that, Laurie?
No, I think that's spot on. We can dig into this topic a little bit more, but does that answer the question for now?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's reducing the friction is great, but I mean, is there a certain time where you decide, okay, now is the time to run an upsell campaign. Now is the time to do the cross-sell. You were talking about the life cycle. I mean,
Yeah.
how would you kind of more meticulously time it if there is such a definition? And maybe also to touch the segments, and do you differ between the three segments that you have when you think about doing such campaigns?
Yeah. I mean, so from a marketing perspective, we think about it as people first have to be successful with the products that they already have, right? So look, if you're not activated, if you're not logging in, if you bought Marketing Hub and you aren't finding value with Marketing Hub, you probably don't want to introduce HubSpot to your sales team, right?
Right.
And of course, there's edge cases where like, well, maybe you bought Marketing Professional and you actually needed Enterprise or something, there's edge cases. But for the most part, if you haven't activated and gotten value out of what you have, you're probably pretty unlikely to want to cross-sell or upsell. So from a marketing perspective, we first focus on, are we making you successful with what you have? Are you healthy? We have health check scores that we look at. Do you have a good NPS? Do you have good usage? And are you, as far as we can tell, healthy and happy and getting value out of what you have? And then we layer on top of that. Yeah, go ahead, John. And then I can talk about how we layer on top of that. But that's first and foremost.
Yeah, and so we also utilize those same metrics when we're looking at our customer health. And so looking at NPS, looking at usage, we're able to go in, and that changes the conversations that we're having with customers. So if we have a customer, to Laurie's point, of who's not using the product, our first instinct is to understand, first of all, why that is, and then there can be a number of reasons, whether it's there's an education deficiency, there's turnover in terms of users. They may need some help on certain aspects of the platform, maybe from us or from one of our partners. And so making sure that we're connecting them with the right people to be able to help them through some of the challenges that they have, or providing the right content to be able to enable them. Maybe it's on the education side or direction in terms of how do they proceed forward. So, those same metrics enable us to be able to have the right conversation with them at the right time. And, the same focus for the customer success team is, if you go back to the metrics that we're focused on, it's around utilization. It's making sure they're getting value out of the products that they purchased, and that they're using them to be able to meet the goals that they set out for themselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah.
Relating to that, we have another question from Rennie. Hi, Rennie. When thinking through new retention strategies, for example, if you want to do webinar series for retention or in-app education, around retention, I mean, do those ideas typically come from the customer success side of the house, from the customer marketing side of the house, from both? And how do you implement, like, what's your process? Okay, hey, there's a new idea to run, a new strategy, whether it's retention or something else. How do you work around that whole ideation and implementation?
So I'd say there's a couple of things. One is you have to take a bit of a data-driven approach, I think, at least from a marketing programmatic perspective. And I can tell you what we see at HubSpot is that when a customer engages in the online community or takes an academy course or an academy certification, right? When a customer is educating themselves on how to use the product and connecting with other users, their retention is higher. Incidentally, they're also more likely to cross-sell, upsell. So I think marketing really needs to be responsible for those programmatic, scalable things like managing your online forums, making sure you have good, solid education and you have a good education strategy across the customer base, and things like that. And then you lean on your humans in CS to be to do the more nuanced work that doesn't necessarily need to be as programmatic.
Yeah, and in terms of ideas for them, obviously there's kind of a regular cadence that we run when we identify problems that customers face on a regular basis. So being able to, maybe create a webinar series to help them solve some of those problems. but it's also, understanding, what is the customer experience that you want to deliver, and making sure that you have the right touch points to be able to facilitate that with the customer.
Yep, and we look at a lot of data for that, right? So we look at like what support tickets are coming in, what roadblocks is the CS team logging, what are we seeing in the customer inbox, what community threads are getting most upvoted. So we really do look at it from a data perspective and say, where are our customers struggling? And then that informs our education roadmap, our webinar roadmap, our communication roadmap. That's how we decide what academy content, honestly, to create for customers.
Good. We have 10 more minutes. We have a lot of questions. So do we have more slides that you want to share before we move to open Q&A?
This is it.
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, just to tell everybody, we'll try to answer all the questions. I know we have, maybe we can go a bit overboard. I don't know if Laurie and Jonathan have time. But anyway, if we don't, we'll send a follow-up kind of email with maybe some Q&A. The questions and the answers, and we'll send. Can we share the slides, Laurie and Jonathan? I think we can, right?
Yes, you can. And if you want, I can put a link to our industry Slack in the chat here.
That would be great as well. Yes. So let's do that. So I mean, and again, just to remind, while Laurie is putting the industry Slack in, it's for people in customer marketing, customer advocacy, communities. It doesn't relate that much specifically to the customer success role. Or to product teams. So just, to be conscious of what we're talking about in that group, but it's a 300 strong group, so you're welcome to join us. Okay, let's go through questions. So I think one of the questions here is about, let's go with, Melina. So she was saying, do you have, I think, Jonathan, you're related to that, where you have this kind of single source of truth in HubSpot. And I think, Melina, and it's interesting for everybody to better understand that. So are you using a unified platform or system to see the entire customer journey that every team, whether it's CS, marketing, sales, etc., support, can have like this 360 view of the customer, how they're doing with engagement, advocacy, what she's saying is right now she can see in terms of in teams have the trouble working together in a seamless way because everybody's not seeing the same picture. So asking, how does HubSpot share that image, and is there one true image or source of truth?
Yeah, so we actually use, we drink our own champagne. We're firm believers in the HubSpot platform. And so what we actually, exactly. So we use HubSpot. And so, we make sure that everyone has access to be able to have visibility in terms of what's going on, what are the interactions that are occurring, right? You have the capability to be able to log interactions into a customer record. And so you can log in there and you can see what's going on at any given moment. What's the last interaction they had? What was it? Was it an email? Was it a phone call? And if you have your sales reps, you have your success team who are all utilizing the same platform, you'll also be able to see, the marketing outputs that are going and that the customers are getting as well. So a huge believer in the HubSpot platform. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I recommend you do so.
Cool. So questions, I think that there are still questions regarding the three tiers. So Kathy was asking if you can kind of iterate again the three tiers in their most simplified version. And I'll add another question that relates to that from Alok. He was asking, would you say that the older customer fall into, the baseline of maybe more low touch versus, the newer or, that go more into a high touch, regardless of their size and revenue? But I think the answer is no, actually. So let's go again, just explaining the tiers in the segmentation. In a simplified manner.
Yeah, so there's three tiers, and I think Laurie talked a little bit about kind of a baseline tier. There's a certain level of support and communication that all customers get. And if Laurie, can we flash back to slide 7?
Yeah.
Just so everyone can get the visual.
Yeah, hold on.
So there's that baseline that everyone gets, right? They're getting the communication on product updates, on new campaigns like Adapt 2020 that we're launching, and things that are going to be able to help them to better utilize the product, understand, what's going on with HubSpot and how do I better utilize it. And then we have a low touch model where, there's the customer has the capabilities to be able to go out there and search for information that they're looking for. And Laurie talked about it a little bit, where we have the capability to be able to use bots to engage with those customers, where we can engage with them through the platform. And they can actually, send us a message, and we have someone who can respond. And if they're challenged to find some of the right information, we can send it to them directly in the bot. And it just makes for a much better experience than someone having to pick up the phone and to place a ticket or to call someone. And then kind of have that mid-tier where, that's kind of a mixture. And, you can utilize the bot, you can utilize that self-discovery mechanism. And you can also, have the potential to talk to somebody just to kind of, make sure, hey, are we doing the right thing? Here's how I'm thinking about something. Here's something that I want to try. What are the best practices that are happening in the industry? And then, that final tier, the high touch tier that we talk about here on the screen is one where, they want a lot more guidance. They want a lot more human interaction from HubSpot. And they want us to give them a lot more information to help guide them down their path of digital maturity. So those are the three tiers. And then, you have that marketing tier where everyone is engaged, and that goes to every one of our customers.
Cool. So actually questions for Laurie now about advocacy. So one of them was regarding how do you leverage your community to identify and recruit advocates? We know that question. And the other question is, how is your customer marketing team structured and how big it is? Okay, actually two great questions for you.
Okay, sure. So sorry, the first one was how do we use community to identify advocates?
Yeah, and leverage them, correct.
Yeah. So we look at it, I don't know if you mean online forums or just community in kind of like a generic sense, but we really kind of have that automated approach where we say, okay, first, who is most active in the product? And then how do we ask them to do something relatively straightforward, like leave a review? Once they do that, we mark them as an advocate, and we say they're an advocate, they left a review. And then we sort of increase over time. Well, okay, you left a review. Now, maybe would you be interested in doing something with a little bit more effort and also a little bit more reward, like maybe a case study or which we would feature on our website. So the asks sort of increase over time, as do the rewards. And we just keep track of all of that in our CRM so that we know who's an advocate, who hasn't yet, how much they've done. And that's customer marketing takes like that very automated approach. We also work closely though with customer success to take a more hands-on approach. So when a customer success person gets a customer that is a raving fan, they also have the ability to flag that to us and say, hey, this person may or may not have been picked up by your automated campaigns, but they're a fan. They're advocating for us already, and let's get them into your program and get them rewarded.
Right. I think Mark was also relating when he asked about the community, like there's a huge HubSpot community, like, so do you do any actions in the community platform, in the community forums themselves to do that, or you just, is it disconnected?
So I'll talk a little, so our community is actually on a little bit of a transformation. We actually just hired a new head of community, which I'm really excited about. Jonathan helped us find, actually. It's funny, small world. But our community really started off as a support forum, as many, many online communities do. And we're in a mode now where we want to transition it to more of an engagement platform where we can do interesting things like that. But no, today our online forums are really just support forums, although that will change in the future. Cool. And then the question on team structure, where it's, sorry, yes, my little coworker. We sort of have three functions: customer communications and campaigns. So those are all the folks that manage all of our outbound email and outbound communication. Customer stories. So that team thinks through, what is our customer stories process? How do we document them? How do we, again, reward those people? How is legal involved? Things like that. And then the third team is community and events. So that's online forums, user groups, webinars, and advocacy.
Right. Okay. Jonathan, another one for you. If you should do, can you go overboard 1 minute? There's a trend, or at least Ernesto is saying that there's a trend to monetize customer success, basically charging premium fees for CS. What do you think about that trend? How is HubSpot, monetizing, if at all, it's CS?
Yeah. So there certainly is a trend, and there's a number of different companies that have chosen to start charging for their customer success team. For us, we certainly provide our customer success team free of charge. But there certainly are customers who say, actually, we really love engaging with our customer success manager, and we'd actually like to have more of their time. And so, that is an area where, there's potential for us to say, hey, if this is something that enough customers are asking for, then we should be able to find those resources for them. Or, we can pull in partners who are going to be able to accommodate some of those, the challenges that they're trying to solve, and some of the resource gaps that they're trying to fill.
Got it. Okay, cool. So I think we're at the end of the time. Again, we can take another question from Rita. How is the post-sale customer journey structured for HubSpot customers? I mean, in terms of driving adoption and retention, that's a big question. I'm not sure we can take it, but if you want to, we can. Before we answer that question, thank you everybody for participating. We still have, about 50 people on the line, so amazing. Thank you so much, Jonathan and Laurie, for spending your time sharing these materials and answering all these questions. Again, we'll send a recording, we'll send, some Q&A. Yeah, I mean, the last question, if we have time for that, is how does HubSpot basically take the post-sale journey in the sense of adoption and retention? It's a very broad, big question.
Yeah, I think I'd probably have to understand some more of the nuances there from a structured perspective. Is it the organizational structure versus kind of roles and responsibilities? Right. Certainly from a from a structural perspective, we have a success team, we have a services team, we have a support team, and then obviously we have the customer marketing team, which falls under the marketing team, but they work very closely with us. So that's a high-level overview of how the structure looks like from a post-sales perspective.
That's amazing.
Thanks for having us, Gal. It was a pleasure chatting with everyone.
Yeah, and thank you again for all the participants. Thank you, Laurie and Jonathan, for all your time, and it was great. Have a great next week.
You
Thanks,
too.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.